with the learning as a 5th grade student. This is a big transition year. They're the seniors of this campus, and this is the last year that they are in elementary school. And we have high expectations for them before we send them up the hill to middle school. We want to feel comfortable knowing that we've done everything that we can to better them for 6th grade, middle school, and then high school. So that includes one being departmentalized. Instead of having one teacher the whole school day, they have 5 different teachers and they rotate to each teacher. And we all have our own expectations with our classroom. So they have to adapt to, okay, now I have to turn this in here in Miss Owens' class, but when I go to Miss Smith's class, she has a different place, and that's just teaching them to be a little more responsible. Taking ownership for their education and their actions. That's huge. You know, in the past, your child may not realize that a 75 is just an okay grade. You know, they just don't know that concept very well, a lot of them. And so we encourage them. Each teacher has a grade sheet, and when we give assignments back, we have them record the assignment name and what they made on that assignment. So it holds them a little more accountable for their grades. And as a parent, and I have 3 children in the school system myself, as a parent, that's somewhat of a blessing when they start taking that ownership and you don't have to continually be on them about their grades. So that's something we are working on this year. Being an attentive and active student is something else that we work on. You know, so many students will come in and they'll sit in that chair that they're assigned to in class, and they're just taking up space in the classroom and breathing the air in the classroom. It's just like the Charlie Brown cartoon, you know. I'm speaking, but the child is hearing meow, 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 meow. We don't want that to happen. We want them to come in and sit down and say, okay, Miss Owens is going to have something important to say today. I'm going to be a good listener, and we expect that from them. I know that that's extremely hard for a 10, 11-year-old student to do all day long. It's not going to happen immediately. But hopefully by the end of the school year, they understand their part in being a student in a classroom. Also, along with being a 5th grader, they are going to have a little more homework possibly than in the past. That's again to prepare them for 6th grade and on. I have 2 high school students, and they're both active in athletics, and they're both AB honor roll students, and I can't tell you how many times they've stayed up till midnight doing homework on a game night, and you know they've got to have it ready the next day. That's just a part of life. It doesn't get any better when they go to college either. So we're trying to do our part to prepare them in that aspect as well. Along with this more responsibility, they also do get a little more freedoms. They have the opportunity to sit where they want to during lunch in a certain area, but they don't have to sit by homeroom. You know, they get the recess at after lunchtime if they've earned that. They don't have to have their planner signed every night. I know if you've been at White Oak, you're used to doing that. And if they told you, no, you don't have to, that's right, you don't. However, if they do have a mark in their planner from the discipline plan that Mrs. Smith just went over with you, then we do ask that you please sign by the mark itself. And we will check that the next day. Also, in 5th grade, they don't have to have a reading log. And that's where I'm going next with my conversation is I want to talk very briefly with you about the AR program, Accelerated Reader. I do like the program. It teaches them to hopefully love reading because they have a choice in what books they read. As long as it's an AR book, which means that they have a computerized test that they can take afterwards over basic comprehension. It's not higher level at all, it's just basic comprehension. And by doing that, though, there is so many AR books to choose from, but they get to choose what they're reading, and then they are held accountable for that. What they do is they take what's called the STAR test, S-T-A-R, and what that does is that determines an independent reading level, which is called the zone of proximal development, which means as they are reading books within their level of independent reading, they should be becoming better readers. If they're not reading books that are too easy, I use the analogy of if you're a concert pianist and you're practicing for a big concert coming up, you practice 2 hours every day, but you're practicing Mary Had a Little Lamb, are you getting any better? Well, absolutely not. You've got to practice books within your level. I also don't want them reading books that are too high or too difficult for them. What that STAR test does is it determines their independent reading level based on the vocabulary that they have a grasp of. So, and that's how the reading levels are determined as well within the AR books. Coming home very soon, there is going to be a Renaissance Home Connect. If you have not had the opportunity to sign up for that, every time your child takes an AR test, you will get an email that has the results there. If you've already signed up for that in the past, that should continue this year. You should have already gotten an email because they've already taken at least one test. So if you haven't, the information to sign up for that is coming home very soon. Look for that. Also, in their planner, I'm going to have a little sticky label. I will put it in their planner on Friday, and I'm basing this marking period on 3 weeks of reading. And based on 20 minutes of reading a day, 3 weeks, it tells me how many points they should accumulate within 1 week, and I just multiplied that by 3 for the 3 weeks. And that tells me how many points they should be able to earn within their reading level. It's individualized. So within their reading level for 20 minutes a day for 3 weeks of reading by October 5th, they should have however many points are on that sticky label. On the sticky label, it will have their name, it will have their reading level, it will have the 3 AR goals. One of them is to test within 85% accuracy or higher. That simply means all the tests that they took within a marking period will be averaged together for 1 grade. It would be like if I decided to take a grade from their AR grades for the whole 6 weeks in my grade book. That would be the grade. I really want that to stay at 85% or higher. If it's lower than that, then that's a clue to me. Either they're reading books that are too difficult, or they aren't reading at all, or they're not reading carefully. And so I use that as a tool to help them to become a more responsible reader. The other number is their average book level. Their average book level, I don't want it to go below the first level of their ZPD, their zone of independent reading there. So if their reading level is a 3.5 to 5.0, their average reading level is going to be a 3.5. If their if their average reading level in the end is lower than that, then they're not reading books that are challenging them or within their independent reading level. And then the last one is how many points they need to get, and that's based on the 3 weeks of reading this first 6 weeks.